Hi, this is Melissa Ainsley, and this is the 11 Intuitions podcast. Today's podcast is really not planned. I had a student today at 12:30, like I usually do on every Monday, and I didn't have a sitter. And over the past several months, I have found that usually means Spirit has something planned. My husband had a job interview at 11:30, so I had the dogs in the room, usually to keep them quiet. So I decided to take a shower. And that's usually when Spirit decides to talk to me. And I saw my mom. I remember this week is Mother's Day week, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people. One of my best friends just lost her mom last week. She sent me a message saying, I just remembered that this is going to be Mother's Day week. And I remember my first Mother's Day week after losing my mom. I remember walking into, of all places, Dollar Tree and seeing Mother's Day cards, and I just lost it. I remember going, I've got to get my mom a Mother's Day card, and then just started bawling. I don't have a mom anymore. But the thing is I still did have a mom, but she was in spirit. And at that time, I couldn't talk to her. So this podcast is about this being a medium, make it easier losing your mom. Some days it helps. Some days it doesn't even matter. Some days it makes it better. But the one thing that I wish people believed in was this gift. And the reason why is because of what happened today. So I teach this gift now. I left my job over 5 years ago. Spirit just said, you need to quit. And I listened. Was not easy to do that. Trust me, we needed 2 paychecks, but I listened. And here I am 5 years later. There's a man now on TikTok who is talking about how he's going through an awakening. And last night I messaged him because he's on day 5 and he was crying because everyone at his work turned on him. And I'm just sitting there going, is this deja vu? Same thing happened to me. And I messaged him and I said, look, this is not the end for you. I could just feel the despair for him. But I also felt relief knowing that he was going to be okay. And why is that? Because I am okay. But it wasn't overnight. And I saw in him me. And I didn't get this gift fully until my mother died. And I also had to lose myself. And then the hard part was I had to build myself back up, brick by brick by brick. And I'm still building myself back up, brick by brick. Just this past February, I came back from a cruise and I had a low time for several weeks. And you may notice that there is a big break between the last podcast and this podcast. And the problem with lows is that when you're used to that low, that hole, you don't notice that you're in that hole until you've been there for too long. And you need to get out when it gets scary for you. And that's when you start apologizing to people. That's when you tell people, holy crap, I've been in a low and I'm getting out of it. I'm getting out of it. But the thing is that when you get out of it, especially for me this time, my body had already decided, you were too low. So sorry. Here's shingles. Son of a bitch. Yep, I got shingles. And you know what? It was a very big wake-up call for me because I did not realize that I was that low. I really didn't. You know, my husband lost his job 6 months ago, and I had to be there for him. And when I came back from the cruise, he was doing well, and it was my turn to grieve. It's a huge loss, very huge loss. Still didn't have a job. And when you grieve something so huge, we had not been in that avenue before. You know, I had left my job 5 years ago, and then to have him get laid off from a job that he was planning on being retired from, you have to grieve that. You just have to. And I didn't realize that I was retreating from people, retreating from my life, but I'm glad I did get out of it. I'm thankful that I caught the shingles immediately as it was happening. I'm glad that the doctor in the e-visit gave me medication, even though she said, we don't start it until we see MASH. And I told her, I had it 2 years ago, and they said, get on medication immediately as soon as you notice the symptoms, because the second time was going to be worse. And oh my gosh, thank God I didn't have the rash because this spot was so much bigger. It was not just a tiny little spot like it was last time. It was a band, a huge band. And I just have a tiny little spot that is raw right now, but I'm doing so much better. But I took that week and I did not beat myself up like I did 2 years ago. I rested, I healed, I listened to my body, hydrated, and I played games on my iPad and I watched whatever I wanted, and I definitely um, did what I could to get out of that horrific pain. When you're somebody who has chronic migraines, you're able to focus on other things and try to keep the pain at bay. And that's what I was trying to do with playing games on my iPad, watching TV, that kind of a thing. And so I didn't have to take too much pain medication, just a day or two. And so thankful for that. But, Spirit was there telling me it's going to get better. You're going to be fine. And so thankful for that. So that's where I've been. I've been missing for about 2 months now. Back today, I was getting out of the shower, didn't have a sitter for my student, and I see a picture in my head of my mom. And she said, "Show your student my picture. I want to talk to you." And my student last week was having a bad week. All of her readings just wasn't clicking. Couldn't take the evidence, that kind of a thing. And I know that my student knows my mom. So I was like, that's going to be too easy for her. She said, "No, I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." So I got a picture of my mom. My student comes on. We chat a little bit. I tell her about my husband's interview today and everything. And then I said, "Well, I don't have a sitter for you." And she said, "Yeah, I saw." And she goes, "I know you have something planned." And I'm like, "I do." So I said, "I've got a picture for you." And she clicks right in. And Julie, I've got to tell you, you did an amazing job today. And I just want to tell you some of the amazing things that Julie picked up. And I don't usually talk about my mom, really. I mean, yes, my students have brought my mom through, but they didn't know me back then when my mom died. My mom died back in, well, it's been 10 years. So, they don't know these things. And the first thing that came through, she said, she immediately tapped in and she's like, "Phyllis, Phyllis." She's saying the name Phyllis. And I immediately knew what that meant. It was my parents' last name, the spelling. It was that meaning. And I was like, "Oh, she's got my mom." And then she said, "Grandma." She was a very involved grandma. Yes, she was. My mom was such a very involved grandmother. She loved my two girls so much. And then she said she was very sentimental. And then Julie got the feeling of crying. And she's like, "Oh, she's just making me cry." She just loved those girls. Yes. Yes. Very social. And my mom was. She wanted to go live in an assisted living so she could be social. And she was so social. They wanted to make her part of the committee for the social group because she just loved being there, loved doing the activities and everything. She was very social. And then she goes, "Fingernails. There's something about her fingernails." And I forgot about that, but it just made me love and have a memory. My mom had the most wonderful fingernails. I can't grow fingernails for nothing. Cannot. My mom had the strongest, longest fingernails. And I always asked to paint them, and she's like, "No." And then I was like, "Can I just bite them?" Because I'm always biting my fingernails. She's like, "No, don't you touch them." And I'd always be pulling them. Like, I wanted to see how strong they were. Like, "Can you break them?" And she's like, "Stop it." And I'm like, "Sorry, Mom." So for her to bring up her fingernails, I'm like, that's a memory, And then she said there was something like the back of her head pressure. I didn't know what that meant. Okay, move on. And then she's like, she always liked to move around. My mom was a very big busybody. Like she always was doing something. And then she loved to be outside in the sun. She brought that up. And then she brought up the breeze. And it's just been so windy lately. And so she was bringing that up when she'd be sitting outside. We'd hear the wind. And then she brought up playing cards. And my mom, like a year before she passed or something, I would go and play cards with her a lot. So that was something. And then she said she's sticking around her grandchildren. She has her back on their hands. She's watching over them. And then she said, "I hear the number 82. And I said, "Okay." So I get out the calculator and I put in the year, and then I put in her birth year, and I'm like, holy shit, she would be 82 right now. What the hell? I don't give out their birth year or anything, and if she wouldn't be 82. And then she said list. She was very organized. Yes, that has never come up before. My mother made lists for everything. She had grocery lists. Envelopes would come in. She'd keep those envelopes. She would make lists on those. She had notepads, list for everything. She went from one project to another. That was her. And then she said, I keep hearing tomatoes. Did she have a garden? She did. My dad would tend to the garden. They'd bring tomatoes in. That was the big thing, tomatoes. And then she said, I get the impression she liked her lipstick. And then she always had the little Kleenex in her purse that smelled like lipstick. What an amazing, amazing piece of evidence. You're getting Kleenex out, and then you can smell the lipstick on the Kleenex. Gosh, Julie, that's just amazing. And my mom always had Kleenex in her purse. And when she worked, she always had lipstick on, and she loved to have her lipstick on. And then later on, she always had chapstick. Always. Different colors, different flavors, that kind of thing. And then when you'd ask her for the Kleenex, it would always smell like that. So, I mean, amazing piece of evidence right there. And then she said, don't forget the flowers. And that was a message to me. Don't forget the flowers. I always brought my mom flowers once a month. There at the end for the past several years, always brought her flowers once a month. So she's telling me, don't you forget the flowers for yourself. It's important. It's very important. And then she was talking about a lot of colors with her, vibrant colors. My mom loved to wear different colors. And then she said, I see her painting a lot of vibrant colors, very colorful. And when my mom was in the assisted living, she would paint, and she always had vibrant colors. I have a picture of her where she painted how the dandelions are before they turned into dandelions. They're like the cottony thing and you can blow on them. She had that, and it was just this vibrant teal. So pretty, vibrant colors. And she loved to tell people how to do things. She wasn't bossy at all. And she liked to give advice. And she did. And then she brought up the dishwasher. She said there was something unique about her dishwasher. And there was. So my parents never had like a real dishwasher. They had one of those dishwashers that you had to hook up to the sink. And so what? How? That's just amazing. I don't talk about that. So great job, Julie. Just great job. And then she said, my back keeps tingling. My mom had back issues. And so the tingling back, yeah. And then she said, my left ear's little plugged hearing issues that I couldn't take. I didn't know about that. And then she said, pitcher, pouring love out of this pitcher. My heart is so full of love. You are truly a wonderful, wonderful person. She's very proud. All of these flowers, she's giving you flowers, she's showing you flowers, and she wants you to be happy. She's sending you love and happiness. And so she didn't realize that it was my mom, but she did say, is this person on your mom's side? Is this your grandma? And I said, no, this is my mom. So everybody, when people see pictures of my mom because she has gray hair, they think that this is my grandmother. And so my mom was older when she had me, so they assumed that she was my grandmother, but Julie did such a great job. So what is it like being a medium and being able to talk to your mom? What I've gathered from people who have done medium readings, my mom's pretty high up there. And my mom had a really, really horrific life. She really did. And I remember the day in the hospital where the only time that I ever saw my mom manic, ever, she told me that she spent all night talking to Jesus. And Jesus took her up to heaven, and she got to see her mom and dad, and she forgave them, and she met God, and she talked about what the future would be. And I know at that time that they talked about what would happen with me. And I know that's when I was made to go on this journey and be given this gift. And, it was so special. And it wasn't supposed to be until after my mom died, because my mom had to go up there to guide me, and she has. And it's absolutely amazing. I grieved for a whole entire year, horrific grief, and then was diagnosed with complicated grief. and I joke, what was so complicated about it? It was just grief. But it was grief where it was as if she had just died and I could not move on. And I had a nervous breakdown and I couldn't function and I had to leave work. I lied about leaving. I said I had a problem with my shoulder. I had problems with my heart at that point in time. It was killing me. It really was. I had to go into intensive therapy. And thank God it saved my life. It really did. And when I came back, I left the job I was at. I went to another job and I was happier than ever. And then a few months later, I was on a trip and I was able to talk to spirit. And that would not have happened had I not had that awakening. And, from that moment on, I've been able to talk to spirit ever since. And I was able to talk to my mom that next night, and she told me how proud she was of me. And has this been an easy journey? It has not been an easy journey at all. People think when you can talk to spirit that you are crazy, that you are bringing evil into life, and you're not. My mom is so high up there. They believe that she's an angel. I have seen her on several occasions, and she is such a white, bright light. I've seen her once, a glimpse of her, and she's so bright. I've seen her as white orbs, and anytime I've ever seen that, an angel is near, and she'll never have to reincarnate again because she's lived all of her lives, and she's up there helping people. She's always wanted to help people. No matter how horrible her life was, she is still helping people. And she helps my students. She loves doing this work. She loves helping them. And as long as I am alive, as long as my family is alive, when I go up there, I'll be doing the same thing, helping people do this work. And she is just nothing but peace and love. And it's so beautiful. I love having her as one of my spirit guides. I really do. I don't talk to her as often as I talk to my dad. He's just ever present. He really is now. He died several years after her, and he grieved so terribly for her. But if I want to talk to her, I can. She is just an amazing, amazing woman. And whenever anybody does a reading for her, they always just talk about how loving and kind she is. So why do I bring that up today? Mother's Day is hard. It's hard. And there's people that still have their mothers here. I have a friend who their family just went no contact. And, she's devastated, just truly, truly devastated. And, I would give anything to be able to hear my mom's voice again. And, when your parent dies, you will never get that back. And I have done so many readings, so many of people grieving, just grieving. And they ask those questions. Do they forgive me? Will they ever? Do they, it's kind of a counseling session, really. And you don't want to have to go to someone like me to have those discussions. Because then you truly, truly doubt, are we making it up? Are we just trying to make you feel better? Which I would not do. I am very, very much of the stance of, if spirit is trying to make things better with you, I'm going to tell you what they're saying. And they truly come with love. Once they pass, if you guys had a bad relationship and they were not good down here, they have to heal up there. And they're not going to be the same up there. They have to work on themselves, and they come through differently. And you may not recognize the spirit that's coming through. And that's been very difficult for a lot of people. They're like, no, that is not my mom. That's not my dad. And I just tell them, listen to what they have to say. And this may be the only time that they get to say it. And I've had people say, nope, I'm not talking to them. Well, that is your right. And then they get another reading and they come through again. And then they keep coming through and they keep coming through and they keep coming through. They keep going to mediums and then they keep coming through. It's at that point where you have to decide, are you ever going to listen to what they have to say? And a medium reading can really, really heal things. And then there's other times where down here, and I had this with my father, they will not understand you until you die. And I told him that. You will not understand me until I die. And he didn't understand that. He understands it now. And he's working on that. Why am I sharing this? Why do I share such intimate parts of my life? Because there's someone out there who's listening. There's somebody out there who this will help. And if you can amend a relationship down here, then please do it. Please do not wait until you are in front of me having to be the middleman to help you mend a relationship. But I will be that person for you if you need that. But I am here to tell you that when they go on the other side, the feelings that they had before go away. It's only love. It's only caring that they want for you. And they want you to do a better job at life than they did. And they're able to see the things that happen now and in the future. And they give amazing advice to help guide you. And so to wrap up this message, your loved ones on the other side and being a medium, yes, it is easier to be able to talk to your mom as being a medium, but not having the physical side is the hard part, especially when you don't feel well and when you just want to hear from them and not have to be the person who is talking to them. And you don't want to have to go to another medium and say, can I please talk to my mommy? Because there's always a baby girl inside of us that needs their mommy. So is Mother's Day hard? Yes. Is it a little easier having this gift? Yes, but it doesn't make it easier this week or on Sunday. I hope that you were able to glean some hope that your loved ones are still there and that they are wanting to give you some loving and kind messages. And I hope that this week is not too hard for those that have lost their parents or who are not talking to them. If you would like more information about 11 Intuitions or would like to book a reading, please find us at www.11intuitions.com.